Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a sort of Ukraine war, EU politics, European politics breaking news update concerning the upcoming elections. And when I say upcoming, I mean tomorrow in Moldova. Moldova is an incredibly important country to what's going on in both the EU and Ukraine. It wants to accede to the EU. It has at the moment a president who is very EU focused and oriented. And at the moment, it's doing a good job in jumping through the hoops necessary to accede to the EU as well as Ukraine. They're kind of parallel countries in some respects. But, I guess like Ukraine, there is an annexed area of Moldova called Transnistria, where there are 1,500 Russian troops and quite a lot of equipment and ammunition that would be very useful for either side. And if a pro-Russian government was to be voted into Moldova, that would be very problematic. In fact, some are saying that the Russians could start thinking about mounting an attack from Transnistria if they were to succeed in really upsetting the political apple cart in Moldova. Now, lots has happened today. So Moldova has barred, it says a pro-Russian party. It's now two pro-Russian parties from Sunday's election after court has found voter bribery and illegal financing. Now, if you are going to be pro-Russian, you're going to say this is overstretched from the courts. This is a case of, hamstringing democracy and democratic ideals. They are stopping democracy from taking place by getting rid of the parties they don't like. On the other side of the coin, you have, I think, reality, which is, hang on, we don't know where all the money's coming from, and it appears to be coming from Russia. How you finance your parties? Are your people just Russian plants? Is this a case of overt kind of espionage, if you like, or not espionage, but overt political interference from a foreign country? So Sunday's vote could determine whether the EU candidate country falls back into Moscow's sphere, with potential implications for Ukraine's southern flank. The pro-Russian Greater Moldova Party is now the second Kremlin-controlled party to be banned today from running in Moldova's parliamentary election. Much like with the other one, the reason is their, quote, totally not from the Kremlin money with which they funded their campaign. My goodness. So that's Moldova Maia, which is Greater Moldova. So there are these two parties in question. Moldova Maia, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, or Mayor, backed by a fugitive Russian oligarch who lives in Moscow. I presume that's Ilan Shaw. And the Heart of Moldova party, run by a woman sanctioned by several countries for being a Russian agent. So Moldova bans two parties from participating in parliamentary elections 48 hours before election day for alleged illegal financing and voter bribery. My goodness. Then, breaking, another pro-Russian candidate is out. The Central Electoral Commission has barred the Greater Moldova Party, led by Victoria Fortuna, from the September the 28th parliamentary elections, cancelling its registration and that of its candidates. So she appears to be the big one there. Next then reports Moldova chooses Europe, a massive march in support of Maia Sandu's party. That's a pro-EU party. Now, today marks the final day of campaigning ahead of Moldova's parliamentary elections. The last polls I saw is that her party was inching ahead of the pro-Russian party, but then there were two other pro-Russian parties. Now, they also had some votes. Now, if they were to get over 5%, then it would give them enough to get parliamentarians. But then if all of those votes are going to go over to the pro-Russian party, then the pro-Russian party could be ahead. So I don't know how it's going to pan out, really. But today marks the final day of campaigning ahead of Moldova's parliamentary elections, and the Prime Minister Dorin Resian, so not the President, Prime Minister, joined a pro-European rally organised by the PAS party. The stakes are high. Russia is reportedly doing everything possible to push its puppets into Moldova's parliament. Moscow is prepared to use any dirty tactic, including orchestrating unrest, with substantial funding. So if you remember, there was an arrest of 74 people who had been trained in, I think, Serbia to break police cordons and whatnot, be trained in like civil unrest and whatnot. They were arrested the other day. So there's so much overt interference from the Russians. According to the Bot Blocker project, Russia launched its largest disinformation campaign ahead of these elections. The Matryoshka bot network released 336 fake videos, almost twice as many as before the US presidential elections. The videos targeted Moldovan voters both domestically and abroad, as well as EU residents. Kremlin-backed bots spread fear about EU integration, discredited Representative Maia Sandu and the PAS and tried to sow discord between the diaspora and residents. For the first time, AI was actively used to create deepfakes of world leaders and even a music clip. Moldovan authorities report unprecedented pressure from Moscow, from vote buying and street provocations to cyber attacks on the Central Election Commission. President Sandu directly stated that Russia aims to turn Moldova into a platform for hybrid attacks on the EU and to strike the Ukraine through its western border, says Nexter. We will continue covering Moldova's elections and provide the most up-to-date news, they say. So, seems some pretty... So I'm trying to get these slightly larger, but I'm failing. So I don't know how widespread they are, how many people, but they obviously need as much help as they can get, the pro-European contingents. Now, the good news for the pro-EU parties is that Moldova's National Unification Bloc, the BUN, an electoral alliance made up of several political parties militating for the reunification of Moldova and Romania, has withdrawn from the electoral race and is asking their supporters to vote for Maia Sandu's pro-EU PAS party. So that is a bit of good news there for Maia Sandu's party. So there could be a consolidation going sort of both ways there. Anyway, I just thought I'd keep you up to date with what's going on in Moldova. We'll be keeping a close eye on that, no doubt, tomorrow and on Monday. Anyway, take care. Speak to you soon.